Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Ammar Al Naaimi and I am a fantasy author. And these are my books, Saram, Hazim, and Majan Chronicles. And in this channel, we do reviews, specifically reviews of fantasy books that have a philosophical undertone. It's my job to go through these books, enjoy them, and to come back with a review and thoughts about what might be philosophical about them. Today, our review is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. And let me just start. Let me just say, I have to say, this is probably my favorite book in 2024 so far. It did something to me that I did not expect a book to do with me being 30 years old. It made me feel like a teenager again. It brought me back to that time of my life when I was awkward and didn't know how to talk to people, and I really had a messed up view on life. I was almost nihilistic, I would say. And I would fall in love with books over and over again. And this book made me fall in love with it. And it does help that the character, who is a teenager, has a nihilistic viewpoint about life. So, we're going to do a review on this book, and we're going to go through 6 elements. First, I'll tell you a little bit about what it's about, and then we'll talk about the world of the book, the plot of the book, the magic system in the book, the characters of the book, the theme and philosophical implications of the book, and finally, writing style. That's number 6, the writing style. So, let's get started. Let's imagine that it's 2023. The world is normal. You know, you're living in New York City. Suddenly, one day, you get plucked out of your existence and you appear in a cafeteria in a magical school. And you find out that, in fact, you have the potential to be a magician. And this is the Scholomance, a magical school floating in the void, rotating slowly until graduation. And by the way, there are magical monsters called Maleficaria, I think. I think it's with a hard C, so K. Maleficaria. And they want to eat you. If you go back to your world, the normal world, the human world, you will most definitely die. In the Scholomance, you have a chance to learn, gain magic, graduate by running through an army of Maleficaria, and come out the other side to join an enclave, which is basically a guild that can protect you. That's this world. Most students in the Scholomance know that they are magicians, they come from magician families. Some of them get thrown right in. In this entire situation, you have Geladriel, L. Her mom named her after Lord of the Rings for some reason. And her mother is a famous healer. Everybody loves her. The problem is, Elle has an affinity for mass destruction. It would be easy for her to raise a skeleton army from the dead to take over the entire school, except she doesn't want to do that. It would be easy for her to make a volcano erupt in New York City. Yeah, she doesn't want to do that. She just wants to be left alone. She just wants to survive. Will she be able to without using her dark magic powers? Especially with the shining hero, the annoying Orion Lake, being on her case all the time? That's what this book is about. The world. Like we mentioned, the entire book takes place in the magical school, the Scholomance. We know from what Elle tells us that the outside world is basically modern, just our world. And most people don't know that there are Maleficaria, and the Maleficaria don't want to eat them because people don't believe in them anyways. So it's just magicians trying to survive with these monsters hunting them. And the way they do this is by joining up into groups called enclaves, which are basically guilds. In the Scholomance, basically the same thing is happening. You have these students who are trying to survive for 3 years while raising their powers, gaining mana, learning spells, learning alchemy, and they need to make alliances because you cannot survive alone. Dear viewer, the monsters are everywhere. Imagine you're in a school, you open up your desk drawer, monster tendrils coming out, takes you by the hand, sucks you in, you're dead. Okay, so you catch it, you go in for your mouse, monster in the mouse. It bites you in the finger. Seems okay. Turns out it's a scorpion, it's poison. Oh, you're dead. You go in for a cup of coffee. Sip, sip. Mmm, delicious coffee. Oh no, there was a monster in the coffee. It goes into your stomach, explodes. Psh, you're dead. That's what this world is like. So you need to keep an eye out constantly. And I just loved this about the world because it gave you this sort of sense of urgency. The students needed all the time to just keep an eye out, right? And if you don't have a friend to help you keep an eye out, your life is so much worse. Now, why does this matter to Elle? Everybody hates her. As far as she can guess, people take one look at her, they sense her destiny of destruction, and they steer well away from her. She gives off a bad vibe. Even though she's really quite nice. Well, she's rude, but like she's not as bad as you would think. And so she's unable to make friends until one day Orion Lake saves her life. So now I think we've spoken enough about the world. Just so to recap everything, the world is normal. Mundanes, normal people, can't tell that there are monsters, and the monsters don't go after. Monsters do go after wizards. It's so dangerous out there. You have like a 50% chance of losing a child that the wizards created a school called the Scholomance to train these students. If you survive the school, your chance of survival goes up to 80%. So you go to the school, there are monsters there lurking behind every corner. You need to study for 3 years, and then the graduation hall opens. There's an army of demons. You run through, you don't even find them. You run through, survive, and then you go and you join an enclave. That's what the world is about. I loved it. It creates a sense of urgency, and it creates a sense of dog eat dog. The plot of the book. So the plot in the book is really well woven, but if you think about it and you sort of try to unpack things, I think this book is made up of three subplots running in parallel and sort of interweaving in the middle of the book. The first plot is just about Elle trying to survive. She's trying to pick up spells that are not destruction spells. Thank you very much. She's trying to build up mana for a big showcase of her power. And she's trying to just finish things off. Okay? The second plot, oh, by the way, the first plot also includes trying to get an alliance. Because why is she trying to do this big show of spell? If she can showcase that she has a lot of mana and she has very powerful spells, some of the Enclave kids might take her on her team, on their team. And so if that happens, she will be able to have people to watch her back. The problem is nobody likes her because when they see her, they see the death and destruction. I'll get into it when we talk about characters, but I love that about the book. So that's plot one. Plot two is related to the death and destruction. Elle needs not to use her powers. And there are two reasons for this. She has sort of a special ability where if she goes mal, and going mal means taking power out of of either human beings or smaller creatures, and it makes you evil. You start to go dark and a little cuckoo. She has a special ability where it's so easy for her to just take power out of people. And she could probably like drain everybody in the class and cast huge amounts of power. But she doesn't want to. So she's trying not to use her powers because she doesn't want to be evil and she doesn't want to destroy things. That's one reason. The second reason is if she goes dark, everybody's going to turn against her, including the aforementioned shining hero Orion Lake, who might be able to kill her. We're not sure. So that's the second plot, where she is trying to hide her darkness from the world, and she's trying not to use that darkness. It's like imagine you're born as a Sith Lord, you are powerful beyond imagination. I don't want to use it. I don't want to use it. I just want to. But that's it. The third plot is specifically about Orion Lake. This guy is on her because first he thinks that she's dark, right? And so he suspects, and he keeps going behind her, Geladriel. Then, when he finds out she's not dark, and she's the only one who's willing to be rude to him because everybody else worships him like he's a shining idol or something, he's intrigued and he's like, "Hey, you wanna be friends? نروح مع بعض. نروح نخلص الأشياء مع بعض. You wanna hang out? You wanna go to the library? You wanna read a book together?" And there's that sort of friendship budding between them, and it leads to a change in how Elle views the world. And so we'll get into that later when we talk about character. You have these three subplots. Subplot one, survival. Subplot two, nobody should find out who I am and what I can do. Subplot three, I'm making a friend called Orion. These three interweave in the middle and they become one really nice river of a plot. And I love it. I really love it. It's like I'll just say it in Arabic. تعرف لما الشراق يتجمعن ويصيرن وادي? It's that. It's streams, bubbling streams coming together, turning into a river. The magic system, guys. The magic system is really cool. It's really fun. I don't really know how it works. I don't really understand how it works. Like as far as I understand, you gain mana by doing unpleasant things. So for Elle, she keeps doing push-ups or like knitting or whatever it is. But also, if you go dark, you can pull mana from living things. But also, Elle can just pull mana from people willy-nilly, which is apparently a special ability. And also, for some reason, Orion can pull mana from mouths that he kills. And also, you can put in mana into crystals. And also, you can share power. And then I don't really understand how the incantations work. Like, you need to know the language, but also there are spells in just plain English. But older spells and strange languages are better. But the school gives you spell books? I don't understand. I really don't get it. As far as I know, there's magic. You have to do an incantation. You have to do something with your hands, probably. It's fun, but it's soft enough that the writer can take liberties with it in places where she would like to use the rule of cool. And if you don't know, the rule of cool is the idea that you can create a magic system, but if there's something really cool that you want to do it and make the magic system bend around it. The characters, the only characters whom we view in real depth are Elle, Orion, maybe Lou and Adia, but mostly Elle and Orion. And because the book is written from Elle's perspective, we mostly see Elle. And the way she views the world is that it is a dog eat dog world out there. Everybody's trying to use everybody. She learned at a very young age that people hate her And so she has learned to be standoffish in return because she believes that everybody is bad. Interesting life view. As the book progresses, she realizes that she would really like some friends. And then when she starts to make them, it creates a crack in the armor around her heart. And I loved that about the book because it's so human and it's so this is a young adult book. It so encapsulates how some people's life view changes in their teenage years. Because yes, people are doing what they need to do in order to survive, but it's not just that. There is space for empathy. And I loved how that's being portrayed through Elle's perspective of the people that she meets throughout the book. Um, like even with Orion, everybody has a double layer, right? Like Elle has the layer where she's very standoffish, but then she needs friendship more than anybody else because she needs to feel good. um, Orion looks like everybody likes him, everybody loves him, um, but you start to notice that he doesn't like. He's always kind of just focused on killing mouths. He's obsessed with killing mouths, and you find out that he doesn't trust people either. Like he knows that they want him just because he is strong, and so he feels taken advantage of, and he has resigned himself to being taken advantage of. Like they show us at there's a girl who tells us that the only reason he remembers people's names, like his childhood friends, the only reason he remembers her name is because his mother used to show him cards with the names, and they would play memory games using that. Right? And it's the same with so many characters where you think they're one thing and then you see a second layer behind it. And I just loved that. I really loved that. I think one of the most powerful elements in this book is Elle opening up to people around her. Like it's so hesitant, it's so tender, it's it's a beautiful way of showing people who have a dark outlook on life and who learn that there is more to life than just their dark outlook. There's a scene in the cafeteria broke me, shattered me. I am dust in the wind. صراحة يعني. Now, philosophical undertones. So there are two things, I think, two things where I can sort of pull out a philosophical undertone in this book. The first is the outlook on affinities and how they relate to character. Like Elle's affinity is destruction, therefore people get the ick from her, therefore they don't like her, and that impacts how she views the world. Now, seems very fantasy, right? But Hippocrates and Galen, these are ancient philosophers. They proposed a theory of the four humors, which went into medicine, but it also went into philosophy and I think ethical moral philosophy as well. So you have fluids, which are associated with the elements. Sanguine, which is blood, is associated with air. This is characterized by sociability and cheerfulness. Yellow bile is linked to fire, and it's marked by ambition and leadership. Melancholic, which is related to melancholy, by the way, black bile, uh, it's related to earth, and it's associated with introspection and caution, but also introversion and being scared and all that sort of stuff. And then the phlegmatic fluid is connected to water and it's characterized by calmness and reliability. This is just a very shortened down version of it, but you can see how various philosophers have thought, okay, so there are elements of the world, how are they related to how people act? And so they would think that if somebody is very melancholic, that either their nature is black bile or they have too much of the black bile inside of their body and they need medicine. And this was a very, very interesting philosophical time. Of course, this was thousands of years ago, but I loved seeing this and relating it to that. So that's one thing. Um, the second thing is related to the same topic is Thomas Hobbes. I haven't gotten to reading Thomas Hobbes yet, but I went and I saw a summary. So he believed that people are naturally unsociable. And this is something we saw in Schopenhauer as well, in The Wisdom of Life, where he says that being by your lonesome is a reward because it allows you to introspect. And so people are not sociable by nature. We stick together because we need to for survival. People are not sociable by nature. They don't want to be friends. They just stick together in order to survive. It's here, and it was in Thomas Hobbes. Now, of course, Elle's outlook on life changes throughout the book, but again, interesting that this connection is there. And the third, I would say, is extreme, extreme skepticism. Like in this world, belief matters. It matters so much. Like in this colomance, if you think that you've been walking for a very long time, the corridors of the school actually lengthen in order to lead you to a maze because the school is against you, kind of. Because mundanes don't believe in mals, a mal will not attack them. And if a human sees a mal, he might think that it's a cat or a mouse or a cockroach, and he would attack it with a broom. And he would kill it because he thinks it's a cockroach, so it thinks it's a cockroach, and so it dies. And this is related to something called extreme skepticism, where I only really saw it in Descartes because I haven't read about the Hellenistic skeptics yet. In Descartes, there was this thought experiment that he did where he imagined that there was a demon, Descartes' demon, that was willing, that put up a shade over his eyes. And everything that he saw was fake. So how can you tell what is real from what is not? You can't. Like, this entire thing might not exist. We might be in an imaginary world. And the way Descartes solves it is by going into deep introspection. And so finding out that even if you were in a void, nothing is there, he would still be thinking about the thought that he exists. And therefore, since you are aware that you exist, that means that you do actually exist. And then from there, you can extrapolate other things. But yeah, so these are the three things that I found. The elemental theory of the humors, Thomas Hobbes' own sociability, which is related also to Schopenhauer, and then extreme skepticism. These are the three philosophical undertones that I found in the book, and I just loved seeing them here because it's the fact that you're reading this fantasy book and you're not aware of it, but you're being exposed to very deep ideas that leave an imprint on you, that impact how you think about the world later. Writing style. The writing style in the book relies on humor, snarkiness, and character distance. What do I mean by that? The entire book is written from Elle's point of view, and it feels like we're hearing her internal monologue the entire time. And so the book is very much, it has such a strong narrator voice that you can't help but see the world from her side. And I think that really helps the book because it impacts how you view the lore, how you view the magic system, and how you view other characters as well. And it was a very fun way of seeing things because it really hit home that theme of a dog eat dog world. Conclusion, A Deadly Education was my favorite book of the year so far. I loved it. The cafeteria scene broke me. And when I finished, when I got to the final page, I thought to myself, oh no, I need to go find book two right now. And I haven't found it yet, but I will. I'm quite sure book two is going to be on my reading list for 2025, probably in January. This brings me to the end of my review. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you would like to buy Adult Education, I actually want to make it available on my store, Majlis, but I haven't been able to do that yet. Assalamu alaikum. This is future Ammar. At that exact moment, my mic cut off. And so I'm just going to do my conclusion here. Thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Have you read this book? Let me know. Yalla, مع السلامة.